My name is Paul. I'm from the fund office at Mid-America, and we take care of your pension, your monthly pension that you're going to get when you retire, and we also take care of your SMA, which is your defined contribution plan. Now, you're one of the locals in Mid-America's jurisdictions that actually has two defined contribution plans. You have the SMA, and you have your local 395 annuity, and you're putting in the same amount of money in both of those plans because that's, you wanted the freedom to have your own plan, and then you have your money in the SMA plan. So you're actually in three plans altogether. So just keep that in mind. What I'm talking about are the two that are at Mid-America right now. The fund office is, you go down 8094, the first exit into Illinois is Torrance Avenue, and then you turn right and you go up to 170th Street, we're right there, okay? So it's pretty good if you ever want to go there on a rain day or something, or if you ever want to, zoom in, we can send you a link and you can talk to people in the office from the comfort of your own home if you like to do that sort of thing. That got popular during COVID. We still offer it. So we can do that if you're sick or you just need some help. Okay? We've got a lot of information to go over today. And so I'm going to go rather quickly, but that doesn't mean you can't ask questions. Set aside about a half hour, 45 minutes to talk about the pension, and then my associate, Laurel, is going to talk about the SMA plan. We're going to have a raffle in between where we're going to give away some books. Retirement Planning for Dummies. No offense, but they're just books to help you, as you get closer to what you're going to do. And we've got a couple other speakers. Jenny is going to go over all the information that's in your packet. You've got a lot of stuff there. All of it serves a purpose. Don't just, throw it in the kindling and burn it. It's all there because you might need it sometime. And then Heather is one of our pension clerks. She's going to be here also. She's been handing out the packets to you. Kelly was not able to come today, but if you ever need information about your contributions, say some contributions didn't come in on your quarterly statement and you got a problem with it, or an employer didn't pay, or something weird, you call up Kelly at our number and press 4 for contribution accounting, and she can take care of everything that you need. Okay? So I'm going to get right into it. Again, ask me if you have any questions, but I'm going to turn it over to Jenny real quick. She's going to go over what's in the left side and the right side of your packet. Okay?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, so left side of your packet, the first thing on top is going to be a credit statement for your contributions. This is the pension credit statement, and behind it is the SMA contribution statement. So these are just samples. These are not your specific statements, but we mail these to you. So please, when you get these in the mail, don't just throw them away. Make sure you're reviewing your hours so you're getting paid for everything that you're working. If you find there's an issue or discrepancy, you'll call into the office and talk to the contributions department. They can help you correct any kind of issues you might be having. Okay? Just below that, just below those two, we have, sorry, I wasn't playing on the microphone. Here we go. A pension estimate form. The pension estimate form is purple. If you want a pension estimate or you want a specific scenario, you can fill this out and get it back to us today, or you can mail it in to us, or you can call us at the office and we can run those scenarios for you and get them sent out to you. Alrighty. After that, you have a change of address form. If you've moved recently, please fill it out and bring it back up to us today. Here at the table, we can take it from you so we can make sure you're getting all of your information where it needs to go. On the right side of the packet, next we have this gold form. This is the SMA side of your packet. On the SMA side, if you would like to roll another qualified plan into your SMA, you can fill out this form, and then when you apply to withdraw from that other fund, their administrator will need to sign off that their plan is qualified, and they'll send this right back to us. So that's what that's for. Behind that is going to be the hardship benefit. And I'll talk about this more a little bit later. But these are just kind of the basic parameters of the hardship benefit that started last February. So we'll go more into that at the end. And then we have the contact page. Put this somewhere you will find it later. This is all of your local's direct contact information. Everything from Social Security to your health and welfare. Our information is, of course, on there. And then behind all of it is a beneficiary cards. So I'm going to tell you a little story about beneficiaries. And this is really for those of you who are single. Okay? If you are married, your spouse is automatically your beneficiary, no matter what. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a story about Jack and Jill. Jack and Jill, I mean, they met and it was passionate right away, and she made him her emergency contact at work, and he put her down as beneficiary, and they were great for a couple years, and then they both met other people and moved on. Jill married Rich and moved out to Hawaii, and Jack met Diane. And when he met Diane, they fell madly in love. And they were starting to plan a future together, and Diane finds out she's pregnant, and everybody's parents love both kids, and everything's going great. And then one day, Jack, was out with friends. He comes home, and he doesn't come home. He doesn't make it home. He gets into a car accident and passes away. So Diane and Jack's mom come down to the office just to find out what the next steps are. And it's at that time we have to tell them that Jack never updated his beneficiary cards. So everything is going to go to Jill. Even though she's pregnant with his baby, even though they were going to get married, none of that matters. And I know this sounds far-fetched, but we actually get this kind of scenario happens all the time. So please, 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 even if you haven't updated them in a while, update your beneficiary cards today before you leave and bring them to us. So that way, whoever means most to you is getting everything that you worked so hard to obtain.
So let's talk about the pension plan, as I said, and I'm gonna go quickly, and then Laurel's going to talk about the SMA plan. Okay? Now, you're putting in significant money into the pension plan. For every hour you work under the main contract, you're putting $13.43 into the plan. You reallocate your package every June 1, so that'll be coming up in a couple of months. So I'm trying to send you a message. Make sure that you thoughtfully consider, what the e-board or whatever your process is here, what you do with your raise. Some on the check, some in the SMA, some in your annuity, some in health and welfare, whatever your needs are, just thoughtfully consider that your benefit plans will provide you good benefits, great benefits actually, when you retire. Last year you put in, that's 35 cents more into the pension plan. And so again, you'll be reallocating your package soon. I don't get to say this at very many Mid-America presentations, but you have the highest contribution rate in Mid-America's jurisdiction. From Madison in Wisconsin to Rock Island at the end of Illinois, to Peoria, to 395 in Indiana, and including the Chicago locals, Joliet, Rockford, you're the highest rate. Joliet actually is 3 cents behind you. So as Ron said, the trustees before you, thought that these plans are very important, and if you fund them, you're going to have some really good benefits. Now, in your packet, there's a pension calculation, if you signed up ahead of time, that's customized for you. It's actually your pension as of today. When I was reviewing those this week, I noticed that several of those, well, actually many of them, your monthly pension today is already over $5,000 a month, okay? And that's really significant. Lots in the 3s, lots in the 4s, okay? And that's because you've put significant amount of money in the plan over time, and now it's coming to fruition. So not only are you putting money into your annuity, and you're having big account balances because of the market appreciation the last few years, but now your pensions are getting big too, okay? And that pension is going to be with you every month for the rest of your life, and possibly for your spouse's life, depending on what election you make. So that pension, think about how long you're going to live. Think about how long your parents lived. I think there's a statistic that says something like if you're 65 years old and married, there's like a 50% chance one of you will live till you're 90. So think about how many monthly pension payments that is that you or your spouse would get. So that's just one part of your retirement, but keep in mind that's why you're funding this. Okay. Every year that you work, you earn credit. Now, this is not how your benefits determined, but you earn credit. And you need a certain amount of credits to become what's called vested, which means you have a non-forfeitable right to a pension. Many of you have worked for many years. You've got 10, 20, 30, 35 years as an iron worker. So this doesn't mean much to you, but you earn credit every year that you work a certain number of hours. Okay? Now, sometimes you don't work, but the plan can still give you some credit towards your pension. And those situations are as follows. We have an hour bank where sometimes if you don't get up to 1,000 in a year, some of your hours from previous years can help you get up to a full pension credit. Sometimes when you're sick, you have a welfare plan here in Indiana where you get some money every week when you go on your temporary sickness benefit. Hey, Ron, how much is your sickness benefit per week? $500. Okay, so let's say that for 6 weeks you're sick and you get money from your welfare fund. If you let us know, we can give you credit towards your pension for every week that you're on your sickness benefit. So when that happens, we call up Lisa or Mary at the Zenith office, and they give us information about that you were on your sickness benefit and the weeks you were on it, and then we give you credit for that to make your pension bigger. So don't forget that. Workers' compensation. Well, that's when you're sick, but you got sick because you got hurt at work. You fell. Something fell on you. Whatever. You get a workers' compensation benefit from your employer or the insurance company that takes care of your employer, and that weekly compensation benefit is also used to give you credit from your pension plan. Okay? So if that situation ever happens to you, let us know. And finally, military service. While this is infrequent, although it seems like it could happen now more than ever, if you do go into the military, either voluntarily or through the reserves or something, or your unit gets called up and you're gone from ironworking for a period of time, you can get credit towards your pension if you go into the military service. You would just need to provide us with information about your military service when you get out. You get what's called a DD-214, and it says when you went in, when you went out, and we figure out how much credit we give you towards your pension. So if that happens to you, let us know. Back 20 years ago, it was a lot more common when people were retiring after serving in Korea, serving in Vietnam, serving in Desert Storm in the 90s. And there'll always be some reason that someone's in the military, but use that to your advantage and let us know. Okay, before I said you had to work a certain number of years, and these are the critical years. You need 5 years of work to become what's called vested, to have a non-forfeitable right to a pension. And so you need to get 5. Now, if you only have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, you have to wait till 65 to get your benefit. But if you have 10, you can retire as early as 62. If you have 15, you can retire as early as 52 or 55 because the plan changed early retirement a number of years ago. You should think of it as 55, but you can possibly get some of your benefit at 52 if you decide you need to get out of the industry. Okay? And we also have a disability pension. If you're permanently and totally disabled, let's say you get a Social Security award that says you're disabled, we'll pay you a pension even if you're not 55 or 62, even if you're just 49 years old and you get disabled, you can get a pension, okay? So let us know if that happens to you. Okay, Now, the pension plan was simplified about 6 years ago. It used to have a three-tiered formula. It's been simplified to have a simpler formula. And there were really two reasons to do that. One is it took away a little bit of an inequity between locals that were participating in 1, 2, or 3 of those benefits, but also for simplicity purposes and to reward people that work a lot of hours. You basically get the pension, twice the pension if you work twice as many hours as the person next to you. So it's really a very favorable way to calculate your pension. So this is really how it works. I say this every 2 years when I'm here, but it's pretty simple. How do you earn a benefit? Well, you take the hours you work, you multiply it by the contribution rate that you're putting in, and then you multiply it by 1%. And that is how much of a monthly benefit you earn in that particular year. So if you look at the bottom example, you worked 1,000 hours this year, and the contribution rate is $13.43. You multiply that by 1%, you do all that multiplication, and you get $134.30. So that's how much your monthly pension would go up if you did that. Okay? Now you're probably wondering, well, what happens if I work more than that? Or what happens if I put more money in? Well, this is exactly the chart that shows you that. You're going to hopefully be going through a time in the next few years where work is going to be better than it was in maybe the prior few years because of all the projects going on in the area. That may allow some of you to work more steady. Some of you may work 6/10s at some places that are coming up, and so you may work a lot of hours, and you don't want to give those up. So in that first box, you'll see that's the $134.30 I just talked about. If you work twice as many hours as that, say you work 2,000 hours, in the third column there, you'll see your benefit that you earned during the year is $268.60. That's twice the amount in the first box. Okay? So it doesn't really matter how much you earn, the formula is still the same. You take the hours you work times the money you put in times 1%, and that's the benefit you earn. Pretty simple. So working more hours will make your pension bigger. If you're working next to somebody for 20 years, but you work twice as many hours as them, under this formula, you'll have twice the pension that they will have. Now, the other way you can increase your pension is what's in the shade there. If you put a little bit of money in, then that makes the pension larger for every year that you do that. So you can see that in the first column, that $134 is now $136.80. And the $268.60 in the third column is now $273.60. So this is an example of putting in 25 cents. Okay? You don't have to put in 25 cents. You can put in 20 cents. You can put 18 cents in. It doesn't matter. I would just suggest to you that when you have raises that you never forget about your benefit plans, because it keeps your pension growing and you don't get behind by forgetting about it for a while and putting your money on your wages. Or we all want raises, I get all that. But this will help your pension keep up with cost of living if you just throw a little bit of money in every allocation. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay. Now, this is a pension example for someone that has about 30 years in right now. Okay? Some of you have 30 years in right now or are getting close to it. If you worked about 1,750 hours every year for that 30 years, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you kind of averaged 1,750. Your pension right now on your statement is going to be around $4,800. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but it's going to be in that vicinity. Now, if you work 5 more years under the current formula, 5 years times 1,750 times $13.43 times 1%, which is the formula, you will earn another $1,175 in the next 5 years. So your pension will go up by over $1,000 in the next 5 years. That total now is over $6,000. So that shows you how fast your pension grows if you're able to work steady. Now, that's at 1,750 hours. Those numbers will be bigger if you're able to work more hours than that. They'll be less than that if you work less hours than that. Any questions? Okay. Now, that pension is payable at age 60. We used to have the unreduced pension payable at 62, but a couple of years ago, the trustees made a benefit improvement. Ron was part of that, and the plan's been having really good experience lately, making some good investment returns. This last year, the pension plan went over $1 billion. That's one with 9 zeros after it. Okay, $1 billion. So that was a significant milestone for the plan. Okay, and because it's doing so well, the trustees said we want to return some of that money to the members. So what they did was they said, instead of having to wait till 62 to get your full benefit, you now get your full benefit at 60. Now, and that also changed the early retirement factors below age 60. So now, for example, if you're retiring at 55, that portion of your benefit earned before 07, you get 93% of it. From 2000 to 2009, that portion was earned, you get 85% of it, and then anything since 09, you would also get 85% of it. So you may ask, well, why is there an early retirement reduction? And the reason is because you're going to live a certain number of years. Say from 60 to, I don't know, how long do you think you're going to live? How long did your mom and dad live?
75.
75?
Yeah.
All right. 80? Okay, let's just pick something like 80. Okay? Let's say that you're 60 now and you're going to live till you're 80. That's 20 years of benefits. Okay? We're going to pay you 20 times 12 months a year. We're going to pay you that benefit. Maybe that's $5,000 a month. You can do the multiplication and see how big that is. Well, if you want to take that benefit and get it for extra years, we have to reduce it a bit because we're stretching it out. Instead of 20 years now, we're paying it for 25 years. That's an extra 60 payments. So it gets reduced a little bit. These reductions are not very significant when you think about getting it for 5 additional years that you take off 15%. It used to be more of a reduction, but now it's 15%. So that's the reason for it, so that you're taking some of the cost, you're paying for some of the cost of that early retirement reduction. So, in the example I just had, let's say that guy works 5 more years and his pension is now $6,000. Okay? That's what he gets every month for the rest of his life. He'll sign up for direct deposit. On the first of the month, we'll drop that in his bank account every single month on the first of the month. We don't cut checks at Mid-America anymore because checks get lost, the mail's slow, sometimes checks are stolen, there's unscrupulous people out there. Or if you live in the boonies and your mail's not that good, it comes on the 5th or 6th, you're calling us up and say, where's my check? Well, you know what? If you would have signed up for direct deposit, we would have gotten it to you on the 1st. So everything's now direct deposit. Now, the most important decision you're going to make when you retire, if you're married, is what form of payment am I going to take? Form of payment means how much is my pension, and is there going to be anything left for my spouse after I die? And so this is how basically it works. Right now, if you're single, the only option you have is what's called the single life pension. That will be paid to you for your whole life. There's also 3 years of guarantee, so that in the event you died after 2 years, you can name a beneficiary to get that 3rd year paid to whoever, your girlfriend, your children, okay? But it's paid for your lifetime. But if you're married, you'll have the choice of all 4 of those options. Now, the 50% husband and wife pension, what that means is that you take a reduction, and then in this example, you go down to about $700, and when you die, if you die first, your spouse will get half of your pension for the rest of your spouse's life. So let's think about that for a second. Let's say you're 60 and you retire. You take that $5,343.50. You live for 10 years, okay? Now you're 70 and you die, and your spouse is 70 also. But your spouse goes on and lives for another 20 years. Your spouse will then continue to get half that amount, or $2,671 for the rest of your spouse's life. Okay? In the first line there, if you're married and elect that single life pension, your spouse doesn't get anything after you die. So that's why it's important that you thoughtfully think about how you're going to cover your spouse after you die. Now, you may say, well, between my annuity, my $395 in annuity, and my Mid-America SMA, I got $1 million in there, and I don't need to cover my spouse. Okay, that's something to think about. Or your spouse may have their own pension. Okay, so everybody's different. You may be a wealthy person, or the pension may be the biggest thing you've got, and you need to cover your spouse. So those are the kind of things you need to think about when you decide what option you're going to take. Now, there's one other thing about this husband and wife benefit. Sometimes life doesn't work out like we plan it to, and your wife is the one that dies first. If that happens, you get to go back up to the single life pension that you would have gotten had you said, I don't want that in the first place. So if the ironworker pension, if spouse dies first, you go back up to $6,072. Okay? And you stay like that for the rest of your life. Okay? So you want to look at this as though you're buying a little bit of insurance. You're buying some insurance for your spouse if you die first. And what you get out of it is if she dies first, you go back up to the single life benefit. Okay, you're both kind of getting something out of it. Now, there's a couple different ways to skin this whole thing. I've heard people buy life insurance, and the cost of life insurance is less than these kind of reductions. You know, you can look into that if you want, see if you can make a better decision for yourself. But this is what the plan will offer you at that time. Now, let's say you want to cover your spouse with more than half of your benefit. Well, you take an even more reduction, and let's say you want to give her the max benefit when you die. You could go all the way down to $47.97, and then when you die, your spouse will continue to get $47.97 for the rest of her life, knowing that if she dies before you, you get to go back up to $6,000, okay? So I know I'm going real fast, but those are the kind of decisions you have to make when you get to retirement. So what you shouldn't do is wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to retire today, and I'm going to call them up and retire. And then you come in and you sign your papers and you're done. You know, it would advise you to think about it for a month or two, maybe talk to a financial planner that looks at all your stuff to see if what might be the best option for you. At the fund office, we will not tell you what the best option is for you. We will not recommend one thing or the other. We'll just tell you that these options are available to you. This is how they work, and, thoughtfully consider what you want to do. That's a lot of information. Anybody got any questions on that? Sir?
I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So in this example on the screen in front of us, the first percentage is what my spouse would get in the unfortunate event that I pass away. The second percentage is what our monthly benefit will be while I'm alive. Is that correct? So that 88%, is that $5,343.50? That's 88% of $6,072.
Right. That 88% is a factor that we come up with, assuming you and your spouse are the same age, okay, which is what the footnote says at the bottom there. And that 88% or 12% reduction, that's the cost of buying that insurance, the cost of going down from $6,000 to $5,300.
So is that 88% 88%, that 83.5%, and 79%, are those constants?
Yeah,
Or
they're
do those
con-
change under certain
No, they're
circumstances?
constants as long as you and your spouse are the same age. They're a little different if your spouse is, a lot of times spouses are a couple years younger, sometimes spouses are a couple years older.
That,
Those,
that will affect the percentage?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, and one other question, and I'm sorry, I know you went over this thoroughly. I just want
That's
to
okay.
answer it.
This is a good question.
So, if my wife and I were to choose the reduced rate, and you said an unfortunate event that my wife passed away first, I can go back to the single life?
Yeah, it's not that you can do it, you will go back to it.
Is that automatic?
You'll call us up
Is
and
that something new? Because I always thought we were locked into that.
no, this has been the way the plan has been since the late 90s. I think it was around 97 or 95. The trustees put this provision in, and it's been for everybody that's retired since that time. Okay? So, but we don't do it unless we know that your spouse passed away. So you have to tell us.
Okay.
So either Ron or Nick or somebody will tell us because they heard, your health and welfare changed because your spouse died. Nicole will tell us this person died. We get the the death certificate, and then the first of the next month, you'll go up to the higher number.
Okay.
So it's automatic. It's not something you have to ask for or petition or anything like that. You get it.
Okay.
Okay? Good question, sir.
Yeah, that number, that's, let's just say that's $6.72, is that taxable dollars, or is that, are we setting the 1099?
Yeah, everything that, yeah, absolutely. The good question, taxes. Everything that you get from this plan, from the SMA plan, from your local 395 annuity, when you take that money, it's taxable. It's taxable at the federal level. If you live in Indiana, which most of you do, it's taxable at the state level. If you live in Illinois, by chance, it's not taxable at the state level. If you move to Kentucky or Tennessee, or either one of those states has no state income tax on retirement benefits. So if you go to Florida, they have no state tax on retirement benefits. So it's definitely taxable at the federal level. So you should expect, you know how when you fill out your form when you're working for someone, you say how much taxes you want taken out. Say you're married with 2 exemptions. They'll take out some money out of your check. Well, the same thing applies here. We will take out money for your federal tax based on the direction that you give us. Okay? And the same thing for the SMA. And the SMA actually is required to withhold 20% if you're taking out a large distribution. But that's something you need to deal with later, because there's rollovers and there's all kinds of other options you have to minimize your taxes. Okay? So it's just like your wages. What isn't taxed here is there's no Social Security and no Medicare tax on retirement benefits because that is not earned wages. When you go to work today, you're working and you're making wages. That's subject to Social Security and Medicare tax. Retirement benefits are not subject to that. So your taxes hopefully will be smaller in retirement than they are today. Okay? All right, death benefits. Sometimes people die before they retire. Hopefully none of you will die before you retire, but if you do, and you're married, your spouse will be covered automatically. There's nothing you need to do. We will find your spouse and pay your spouse a benefit. And so the way it works, basically, if you're under 52 years old, your spouse will get the 50% benefit that we talked about earlier. If you're over 52 when you die, your spouse will get the 100% benefit. So you're probably saying, well, why is that? Well, it's expensive to pay the spouse that 100% benefit. But the trustees 20 years ago said they didn't want people retiring at 52 just to lock in that benefit. So they said, once you make it to 52, if you're still working, your spouse gets that 100% benefit. So you don't have to worry about, retiring and gaming the system in order to cover your spouse. Okay? Now, some people die before they're retired and are single. As Jenny went with that example, that happens sometimes. And those people are covered too. Generally, you're covered for with a benefit for 36 months. So if you die and say you have one child, and your child would get your pension for 3 years. Okay? It wouldn't go forever, but it would go for 3 years. Now you may wonder, well, why is that in a pension plan? Well, a pension plan is different than the SMA plan. In the SMA plan, that kid will get your whole SMA balance because it's a pot of money. But a pension is not a pot of money. A pension is a promise to pay you a benefit. Some people die early in life, and if they do, their beneficiary gets something for 3 years. And you might say, well, where does that money go? Well, some of you will live till you're 90 years old. And so some of you will live longer than your average life expectancy, and some will live shorter than your average life expectancy. So you look at it as kind of a gamble, I suppose. Some of the money that's used from people that die early, it's used to pay for those people that are 96 years old and still getting $3,000 a month. Okay? So you will never not get a benefit if you're living from this plan. You will get it until you die. But sometimes, the way to pay for that is some people die earlier, and so that money, helps to pay those people that live a long time. Okay? Now again, that's not the way the SMA works. You get that statement, and that kid is going to get your entire balance because it's not a gamble as much in the SMA plan. It's what you got. That kid will get that balance, no more, no less. Okay? So that's what makes the SMA plan and the pension plan a little different. In this example, this person would get that $6,000. They'd get it every month for 3 years. So the total value of that's about $219,000. So don't think that putting money in the pension plan is a waste because you might not get it if you die early. I think that would be a bad way to think about it. You need to think about surviving and having protection. And that's why the SMA plan is there for you, because that's the thing that you'll always get exactly what is in there. Sir?
Again, just for clarity, I apologize, I hope I'm not slowing anything down. I'm going to use myself and my wife as an example. If I'm understanding you correctly, so I'll be 53 in June. Let's say I wake up, go to work, and I don't come home within the next couple of months. You're telling me my wife is eligible for 3 years of my pension?
No. Since you're already 52.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to do your calculation, and because you are already 52 years old, your spouse is going to get the survivor portion of the 100% pension. So she's going to get, a better benefit essentially than if you were 49 and didn't come home.
Okay,
And she's going to get that for the rest of her life.
oh, she gets it for the rest of her.
Yeah. These benefits are paid for your whole life. It's only for the single guy that the benefit's only paid for 3 years.
I see. Okay. And how do I go about doing that? Do we have to sign paperwork?
No. We already know your spouse will come forward and say, he died. We'll send her an application. We'll get the death certificate. We take care of all of it. We'll also take care of your SMA at the same time. So it's all kind of automatic. We just need to know that it happened. There's really nothing you need to do. Now, Jenny talked about the beneficiary card. Now, if you're single, which you're not, make sure your beneficiary card says what you want it to do so you don't become a Jack and Diane, okay? But as she said, the first thing she said when she started was, if you're married, your spouse is always your beneficiary. So if you're married, all is good because you can't lose anything. But it can go to the wrong person sometimes if you're single. If you wonder how that can happen, ask Ron about it. He can tell you stories about that. Okay? Good question. Some people say that no question is a bad question. Actually, some questions are bad questions, but these were good questions. So. Okay, now there's also an on-the-job death benefit. It's rare, but once in a while somebody will get killed on the job. the last thing you need to worry about is screwing around with your pension and stuff, because there's going to be a litigation maybe, or workers' comp. It's going to it's going to get bad. But the pension plan does this special thing for your spouse if you're married, where we look at what's your benefit today, and we calculate what it would be if you would have lived till you're 65, working 1,000 hours every year, and then we give that benefit to your spouse. No reductions, no nothing. Just we give it to them right away for the rest of their life. So if you're 39 and you get killed on the job, she will be taken care of with a really good benefit. It's not going to help you, but you can at least know that, at least from the pension plan, things are going to be good for your spouse. The SMA will go to your spouse. There'll be all kinds of other stuff going on, maybe the health plan, litigation, all that stuff. But from the pension plan, we've got a nice benefit for your spouse. Okay? Okay, Quadro. Anybody know what that stands for? It's an ugly word. It's a very ugly acronym. It stands for Qualified Domestic Relations Order. Sometimes people get divorced, and you've agreed amicably to give some of your pension to your significant other, and you have to file a court document that does that. It isn't just done automatically. And we can help you with that. If you hire a lawyer and they say, well, we'll charge you $7,000, we'll take care of your Quadro for you. You can download a model Quadro on our website for free and fill it out and get it certified by the court, and you're good to go. As long as you can agree on how you're dividing everything. Is it 50-50? Is it 75-25? Whatever. Okay? So that's how it works. You can't just say you'll do it. You got to actually do it. All right. Sometimes people go back to work. Now, you should not retire thinking you're going to go back to work. You should not retire until you're really kind of done. That doesn't mean you can't go back to work, but don't plan this elaborate thing where I'm going to go back to work and work in the industry as an iron worker. Because if you work too much after you retire, we stop your pension, okay? So basically, the magic number is 40 hours, which is 1 week in a month. When you retire, you can go back to work in the trade for Pangier, Superior, whoever. You work 40 hours and still get your pension. But if you go over, we take your pension. Okay? So think about that before you do that. There are times maybe when a job comes up and you want to take off for 6 months because you're going to make a ton more money than your pension, and you just want to do it, or let's say you made a bad decision and you weren't ready to retire. You could always unretire. But think about that before you actually do that, okay? But it is possible to do that.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Can you define exactly what disqualifying employment is?
Sure. Well, disqualifying employment is, number one, it's going back to your same job. It's working as an iron worker. It's going out of the hall and going to work for somebody and having the contributions come in and all that. It also means, working as an iron worker, non-union. I hate to say that word out loud, but, it means that. It means doing anything that's too close to what you were doing before. Now, it's easier maybe to tell you what it's not. If you say you're going to go to the golf course in Chesterton, Brassey, and you're going to cut grass there, that's obviously nothing to do with ironworking. You can work there 50 hours a week and cut grass. You could become an insurance salesperson for State Farm. You can, even though none of you shop at Walmart, you can be a Walmart greeter if you want, okay? But you can't do anything that gets really close to ironworking. Okay, so that's really what the rub is.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
That's all right.
My real question is, I know in the past, you could go, if you went far enough away from our jurisdiction, you could still iron work. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't considered disqualifying employment. Has that changed?
No, the question was, if you didn't hear him, you can work even as an iron worker if you leave our jurisdiction. You have to leave basically the Tri-County area. So if you move to Texas and you want to be an iron worker, you can do that. Just don't reciprocate your money back to Mid-America. Start growing another pension somewhere else. But that's...
Where is that line? How need to leave.
Well, it's basically the tri-county area, Wisconsin, Iowa, Illinois. There's going to be a chart that Laurel goes over in a minute that's basically those 5 states you need to stay away from if you're going to do that and have no strings attached. Okay? Yes, sir.
You mentioned, if, like, say, for example, a big job came up and you were going to work 6 months and you were going to make more money than your pension. How would you go about that?
Yeah. Everybody hear that question? Say, get a good job comes up and you're retired and you're going to make more money as than your $5,000 pension. You call us up, and then we stop paying you, because the thing we don't want to do is keep paying you, and then we see hours coming in, and we're like, wait a second, this guy's retired. So you call us up, say you're going to work, we'll stop your pension for however long you stay, and then we'll start it up when you say you're done. So it's pretty easy. You might have to do the same thing with your insurance. I don't know how your insurance works. That's not my area of expertise. But you might have to deal with that too. But for pension, you have to call us up and then we stop it. Is that clear? Sir?
Now, if you do that, you can't add any more to your pension benefit once you've retired, right?
Okay. The question was, does your pension go up? And sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't. There's a calculation that's done, because the plan isn't set up for everybody at 55 to retire and then continue to work, okay? Because the plan will run out of money, because now it's not doing what it was set up for. So if you do that, if you're suspended for maybe half the year or 9 months, you'll probably get a bump to your pension at the end of the year. But if you just do it for a month, your pension will not go up at all. You'll still get your SMA money. You'll still get your 395 annuity, because money's still being contributed on your behalf, okay? But whether you get it or not, at least on the pension side, it probably won't increase your pension. It'll definitely be in your SMA. It'll definitely be in your 395 annuity. Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else? Some people have some questions. Go ahead, sir. Okay, what years were you in the Army? Okay, how much did you work as an iron worker before you went in? Yeah. Okay, so the rule is that if you're working as an iron worker and then you go into the military and then you come back as an iron worker, you will possibly get credit for the time you were gone. But what you don't get credit in the military if you weren't an iron worker before you went in. Okay?
So, since I was working as an iron worker, who was deployed, I don't get that missing credit back?
If you weren't an iron worker before you went in the military, no. Because the idea of giving you the credit while you're in the military is that, hey, if you weren't in the military, you would have been iron working. But in your example, it's not clear if you would have been iron working if you weren't in the military. If you were in the military if you were an iron worker before you went into the military, it's clear that you probably would have been working in the iron workers if you didn't go in the military. So it's replacing what you didn't get because the plan wants to reward you for your service. Okay? Does that make sense? I'll be over in the corner there after this is over. We can talk about it. We don't reward you if you weren't an iron worker before you went in. You're right. If you weren't an iron worker before you signed up for the service, that the plan is not required to give you anything. Okay? See, back in Korea and Vietnam, people were drafted. There were guys that were iron workers for 5 years. They got drafted, they went in for a 2-year hitch, and then they came back and they worked as an iron worker for 20 years after that. The plan will give them credit for those 2 years they missed because the law says we have to. Okay? But it's because you missed it because you went into the military. That's the reason. All right? So hopefully that's clear. Any other questions? I know I'm going fast. Oh, Q&A. We're here to help you. All right? Any other questions? Any other questions? Because now's the fun part. There's going to be a raffle. It's going to be an all expenses paid. No, it's not. It's going to be a book. Okay. We have a question over here.
Yeah, with all this work supposedly coming up, will there be like a unlimited amount of hours you can work? if we retire?
Well, you'll remember that last year in 25, there were some places in Mid-America that had a lot of work, and they let retirees, if they were retired previously, they let retirees come back to work and work as much as they want. Okay? That is not what's going on this year. Now, it's possible that'll change if some locals have more work than they can handle. So you should not retire based on something maybe happening. If it happens, those people will be lucky that they can go back to work, but there's no guarantee on that. Because some locals are doing terrible, compared to you. And, the last thing we want to do is let retirees come back to work in those locals. It takes jobs away from the people that are trying to feed their families and all that, even if you need it here. So it's a big decision before the trustees do something like that.